Call the meeting to order.
All right, Commissioners, we're here for our final budget work session, number 4, to discuss the FY22 operating and capital budget. We concluded our 3 public hearings this past week, and we are now here. We have the budget resolution in your budget binders under tab 1, the full county budget, operating budget under tab 2, which includes all the enhancements, which we've been over several times now, and tab 3, the capital budget for fiscal 22, and the 5-year, 6-year capital plan after that, which we've all reviewed numerous times. So we are here this evening to answer any final questions, make any final adjustments that the board wishes to make to the proposed budget, and then we can prepare the final resolution for our meeting next Tuesday for adoption at 7 p.m. So I'll kick it off with that. In addition to the budget binders, I know we have a little bit of a discussion we want to have about the Board of Education maintenance of effort. Brittany's provided a handout that kind of gives you some information. We can go over that briefly if you'd like to do that. There is some uncertainty in what that MOE certification will be for fiscal 22, but there are a few options, and we have some thoughts on how we can proceed with the adoption of this year's budget, and not if we don't get that certification timely, which it's already well overdue. We usually get that in March or thereabouts. And then I have 2 other minor items for action tonight, a letter and a grant request. So that's what I have for introductions. So we have Brittany Moran, our budget officer, and our director of budget and finance.
Yeah, why don't you run down the Board of Education issues so the public understands what's going on?
Okay, so
Please.
in summary, we typically receive the MOE certificate from the state by in March. We still have not received that. There's been a lot of talks of what calculation is going to be used. You had the enrollment issue. The state was giving the hold harmless grants, and then now they've said, okay, we may potentially use this 3-year average of enrollment and throw out September 2020 enrollment numbers completely, like they never happened. So there's a lot of uncertainty on what MOE is going to come out and be, and whether or not we're going to have to fund at this new formula, or this is going to be something that happens in 23. So, that Kerwin they've come out, there's a House bill that was a late update in legislation, and it's not very clear on what the required amount is going to be.
Shocker.
Right. So we're just waiting for this MOE certificate and more guidance from the state. And it was supposed to be given, it's like a week after week. We're going to get it. We're going to get it. We're going to get it. Well, we still haven't received it. So that's kind of where we are right now.
So to piggyback on Brittany's explanation, what I've been able to ascertain today through some various phone calls is that more or less, if we're required to go to the full 2.5% escalator over top, that's going to equate to about 1.7 million additional, somewhere in that, let's call it 1.6-ish.
1.6.
Over where we are at the present time. That actually puts us at the 2022 full Kerwin funding plus $400,000. So we would actually come in $400,000 higher than the Kerwin funding would have been had COVID never happened and we were just walking along through the Kerwin forest. My problem with that is now we've established a baseline. We remember back, 2 months ago we were told that 2020 is going to be a thing of the past. We're not going to calculate 2020 student numbers. We're not going to worry about the dollars from that. Come in with your maintenance of effort plus $1. The state's going to come in and do a hold harmless. What this equates to the counties, and this is every county, they're all suffering. I've talked to some other colleagues around the state, is this equates to the counties now basically ponying up and hold harmless clause, because we should be at a certain level based on the student population. We're now throwing the student population out. It doesn't matter anymore because we're taking a average of 3 years that are not
18 and 19?
correct, that are not affected by COVID. Then next year, we still forget 20, then we do 18, 19, 21. So 20 gets skipped again. So that downturn in 20 is never going to play into this formula ever. And that's just disturbing to me because this, look, I watched, and being friends with Billy Short, I watched Kent County go through this where student population dropped, they continued to fund at a higher level, they wound up having to shut schools down, and it affected them, it took them 3-4 years to rebound it. And sadly, this is kind of setting up that way, but not just here in Queen Anne's, but the whole state. I mean, they've really got to rein this in and take a hard look at the long-term effects of this. This is a 10-year program, of which we're basically in year 3 already, and it really hasn't even ramped up. So, I mean, I think it's going to come somewhere between. I doubt they're going to kill us for the full 2.5%. That would be quite a hit on a lot of counties, and I think the larger counties, obviously, we're going to get hit a lot harder. So they'll have a much louder voice, and they listen to their voices more than they're going to listen to Queen Anne's. But I've talked to some other ones, and for some small counties, it's $1 million, Somerset counties and things like that. It's a lot of money in their budget.
Jack, how in heaven's name is Talbot going to handle this difference given their Kerwin deficit?
So they have, you got to remember, Talbot is an anomaly. They're like Anne Arundel. They're tax capped. So the only thing they can raise an additional property tax on is education. So they would craft their budget and then they would raise a tax just to cover whatever the education difference is. It's an additional property tax for education.
I mean, it seems like it would be an enormous hit on their property because they're only sitting at 59 now.
It's 900,000, I think, is what I found out today. Is about where they'd be if it went to the full 2.5%. So Brittany gave us the email this morning, kind of broke it down and did a great job with it because it showed like where we are now based on what we've been under the impression the whole time we were going to do. And then she gave the 1.5%, which was what year was that escalator from? That was back 19, right? 19. And then the full 2.5% escalator. Now, and then this is the other thing, I was just talking to Brittany about it. Next year, we're going to have 21, but 21's down, right? We all agree. So the average is going to go backwards, right? If we're using 18, 19, and 21, we're down 330 students in 21. So that average is going to go down. So guess what? All you're going to do is push forward a lower average next year. So guess what? You're going to be short money again next year, right? Mm-hmm. Because say you're 200 students down next year. Well, that's going to equate back into the maintenance of effort. Less students, supposed to be less money, but that's not what's going to happen. And I honestly believe that when it comes around, the state and the legislature is going to say, well, we can fix that. We'll just raise the escalator. Because that's the easiest thing to raise is the escalator from 2.5 to 3 to 3.5 to 4, whatever they want to raise it to. They're always going to get it to that Kerwin number, rest assured. But it's going to come at the expense of the counties, which was always the fear of all the counties, especially the smaller counties when we went into this Kerwin mess, is that if the state can't afford it, they're going to mandate it, and the counties are going to have to pay for it. And that's kind of where we're heading right now. So I didn't want to go into weeds on it, but it's just...
I think that's good so people can understand. So we basically have to have some sort of contingency in case they hit us with that. That's the only choice we have, right?
Well, I mean, we have to address it at some point if in fact the MOE comes in at a higher level than we've proposed. And our interpretation is maybe it's going to hit where we've proposed it, which is the hold harmless, this year's allocation plus the $1. So it just depends on when that certification comes in, and we can make that adjustment, with the budget amendment at any time when that happens. But like I said, they're way overdue. I mean, I think we have a good budget here. We're ready to move forward, I think, towards adoption. And we may not see that certificate for another week or two. Who knows?
So just to make it clean for Todd's end and the girls will get everything wrapped up for next week, my suggestion to Todd was we just put the contingency to come out of the general fund, whatever it would be, put it in the budget resolution for now and hold it there as just a place marker. That way we're covered. We don't have to go through another sit-down budget. It's there. Whatever.
Take the anticipated, you're saying take that.
In the
1.6,
resolution, we'll just write a
in the
contingency.
resolution, take that 1.6.
Well, it'll be a contingency that if it comes in at 1.6, the 1.6 will come from the general fund. If it comes in at 900, it'll come from the general fund. So we're not having to move a lot of other things around in the budget to try and accommodate it on that end.
Sounds good.
Does that work?
Yeah.
And we don't even have to specify the amount. We can just say.
No, that's what I'm saying. We're going to cover whatever.
For our own housekeeping.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever the state requirement is, we will meet that in conjunction with the certificate when it's
Produced.
So submit what we have with no changes.
Unless there's other changes the board wants. Certainly, we can make other adjustments, but
Okay, well,
now's the time to talk about it.
so on that topic, let's talk about that email that I shared with you guys from a couple of our board members, or a couple of the Board of Ed members with concerns about what they're paying substitute teachers and the difficulty to get substitute teachers, and they want to be able to raise the hourly rates for substitute teachers. And then there's a couple of schools that are looking for teachers' positions. Sellersville Elementary School needs a fourth grade teacher. So I'm just putting that out there that they had requested some additional funding for those.
Yeah, and I talked to Helen about that. So she just, we only fund the 7 categories. It's their job to fund past that. And right now, I think that's a moot point based on, I think they're gonna have plenty of money to pay some substitutes and a fourth grade teacher.
Right.
It seems like. But again, even if we gave them the money, we can't tell them, you got to use this for a fourth grade teacher.
Well, and that's what I
Absolutely. This
responded
is-
back to her. I said, so what kind of guarantee can you give the commissioners that this additional money that you're asking us to allocate for these particular 2 items? She said, or the board member said that they had the votes necessary in order to use those additional allocated funds for those particular uses. So. Do you recall getting that email that I forwarded on to you?
I actually reached out to her too, so.
Okay.
I talked to her.
Steve, it looks like you want to say something.
But I mean, I agree with what
think
you're
it's up
saying.
to the
I mean,
board to make
again,
those
in
allocations.
2 weeks, they could have that money.
We have made a determination as to what we're sending over. How they allocate it is their business.
Yeah.
Is that reasonable, James?
I have no idea.
Well, I mean, we've asked
yes.
to be involved in looking at some of that stuff over the years, and it's always been kept
Well,
at the board level, so, I mean,
I don't think we want
Granted,
to
it's
start
the-
getting into that level.
and that's where it should be. They're elected, and they have to make those decisions based on.
And of course, their rebuttal to that was the money that you're allocating for education doesn't allow for these 2 important items that we need to address.
Make it more.
Well, I could
Who
argue
needs to
that-
address?
Say, we
The
need
Board of Ed needs
that.
to address.
That's right.
That's right.
Not a stunt.
I mean, honestly, it's a very similar argument that we had with the Centerville Town Council when they came in here in terms of,
Jim.
it's not our job to raise your taxes. It's, so.
Say we need to.
Well, I think that you make a good point, Jack, that in a couple of weeks, we could find out that we're having to fund education
all be
at a higher number.
I'm thinking it's by Friday, right? I mean, they almost got to have it by Friday, because I think most of the counties I know like 6 are adopting tonight, or, working towards adoption tonight, so.
And that they could find out by next week that those dollars are coming away anyway.
Throws us all
Right.
under.
So. Okay.
All right.
Yep, I mentioned it.
We've resolved all Board of Ed issues for now, right?
Okay, we have.
Well, I guess, right?
As much as we can.
Until we know-
Exactly,
until we know
considering
more.
all the unknowns at this point, as much as we
We're
can.
still wading in muddy water.
Put a pin on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, what's next, Todd?
Are there any other changes to the draft resolution? I will add the piece about MOE potentially changing, but other than that, are there any other parts that you want to discuss, change, take out?
I have no changes.
I have none.
None.
Mr. Wilson, any changes to the resolution, or is it good for you?
What was that?
The budget resolution, any changes to the budget resolution?
That one I have not. I spent my time with the tables. Superficially, it looks good to me.
All right.
Got that word?
There is one change. We are going to change the date in your books. I think your binders show the adoption date
June
of
whatever.
June the 8th. We're going to make that May 25th.
825, yep.
We'll make that adjustment, and otherwise we will carry this forward. All right? Any other changes or adjustments to the operations and/or capital budgets from anybody? Questions?
None from me.
Okay, speak now or forever hold your peace.
Hearing none.
We can make budget
Harry
amendments.
words 27 years ago. 3 years ago. See?
Well, we will prepare this and finalize this and have it ready for your March 25th meeting, and we will have that ready for formal adoption at that meeting.
Okay. That's all I have.
I think that's all we had as far as the budget's concerned, Commissioners, so.
Anybody else have
So-
anything on the budget?
I want to thank both of you particularly for your excellent work on this, and I want to say that even if you know the budget pretty well, it is so complicated. You just get into the airport, or what we were speaking, I spoke with Nicole today about the airport budget, and even when you know the numbers in the budget, all the subsidiary categories, there's no getting to the bottom of it unless you've got all the paperwork that led you up to this. It is absolutely opaque. So,
Which is why we rely on staff and their recommendations and all their hard work. And show us the numbers and what our options are. You guys do a great job.
I would say, I want to thank all the Commissioners too. It's been a fairly smooth, I think, process this year with our fiscal 22 budget. We're very fortunate that the pandemic didn't affect us in a negative way. We're looking forward to a good year next year, and we'll certainly keep you abreast of this continuing saga with our maintenance of effort certification, but we have a plan for that as well, so we'll get that
anyway,
worked out.
to both of you, thanks so much and well done.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Commissioners, the two other things I have while Brittany and Nicole are here, we have, last year, we sent out a letter with the tax bills, a citizen's letter, and I have last year's copy there on your desk, and we're getting ready to prepare those bills and all the supplies for that mailing. If you want to send out a letter this year with that, just need consensus that we would want to do that, and we'll make sure we have those materials ready, and we'll have to draft a new letter, for this year as well. So if we want to go.
I think
I think so.
that's a good idea. This obviously is totally inappropriate this year, but we have good news, and it's free because we're already sending the stamp. We've already paid for the stamp, so on we go.
Do you think, this is copy of last year's letter?
That's last year, just so I could
Right.
remind myself
Do
to
you think
bring it up.
that somewhere in here, even if it's just an additional paragraph, we talk about the challenges that were faced this year because of COVID, when you talk about student population numbers and how the calculations are going to take place, or do you think that just complicates things? Should we just mention something about that in the letter?
I mean, we certainly can. We didn't draft anything for this year.
7,000 students
Yeah.
in our school system, and which means you have, in all reality, 14,000 parents.
I'm betting the parents don't get past the first paragraph where it says their taxes aren't going up.
I thought it was a thought. Just, do we want to mention something about the challenges we face with educational funding because of all the unknowns? No? Okay.
Well, you don't want to be giving the impression that we're running the school system. I mean, we want to stay 100 miles away. The school board's decisions are their
But we
decisions.
do fund them. We do fund them.
That's true, but where it goes is their business. And once you start writing about how it's challenging, it begins to take on the air. I don't know, we'll see, but
When do we normally mail the budget bills out? July?
They should be going out soon, within the next few weeks, I
The next
think.
few weeks?
I think that's what Jeff said, he would need this letter within the next few weeks,
Okay.
as they're getting
Sooner
that
than I
ready.
thought. Okay.
So we can change the information that's on here and send out a draft, and then any other revisions
Yeah.
that want to be made, we can add those.
It's probably a good idea if we at least do that and then send it out, and
Oh, yeah.
We could take a look at it.
Yeah, and if
I mean, it is,
if there's some language
there's
on
our names
proposed-
on here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
and if
yeah,
some
we'll
language
definitely
on
circulate it
proposed on the
through.
school system, I think we can look at that as well.
But you understand what I'm saying, Commissioner Wilson? I know we don't tell them how to spend the money, but we do fund them, along with money that they get from the state, as everybody knows. I'm just saying that, and the challenges we face with funding education weren't any different than our very own challenges in funding county government and functions of county government because of COVID. But I think that somewhere in that letter should say something about how this process changed or was different because of COVID.
I don't think,
I
I
don't know.
don't think COVID affected it at all, the process. I mean, we did the budget just like we do every year.
Well, so maybe the process wasn't the right word to use. I'm just saying some of the challenges that we faced, and not necessarily the processes. In fact, the processes were great. In fact, if it wasn't for those processes, I think it wouldn't have seemed to be as smooth as it was from start to finish.
I mean, at this point, we're funding based on the formula. I don't know, we didn't have to cut anything, you know what I mean? So I don't know.
It's a combination of the state formula, what's coming in, the other demands.
Again, we're not like a Somerset or somebody may have to explain why they weren't able to fund it at maintenance of effort, or you know what I mean? I mean, we funded
I'm
at
not
maintenance
saying,
effort.
I guess I'm not sure what I'm trying to.
Because I know at the next level, if it goes to the next level, we're literally funded above Kerwin level. Because right now, they've reestablished the baseline for Kerwin. It's where we're at right now. It's
And to a
61.
certain degree, the funding for the Board of Ed is, even though we're doing it, a lot of it's out of our hands because we're being told what to do
Oh, it's
by the state. So, I mean,
98%
that's-
mandated.
Yeah,
literally.
so
I mean,
we don't get a lot of latitude in it.
they have more discretionary abilities on their end at the board end than we do in terms of funding.
I'm sure whatever Mr. Mon writes will be exactly correct, sir.
I didn't hear you.
I said whatever Mr. Mon writes will be exactly what we want. So,
Or our commission president, the word master.
Yeah. I'll let Todd hit the first draft at it.
Just another point to consider is like our citizens letter too kind of went into detail about the funding and the process of the whole thing. This is more just the tax bill that they're sent.
You're talking about the letter that went out already?
Yes.
Yeah. That's true. Yep.
And we'll get you a draft, we'll get it circulated.
Key points, we did not raise your taxes. We did not cut back on your services. Government is operating excellent. That's what they need to know.
Okay.
That's what people keep telling me.
That's right.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. And lastly, we have one action item. This is a FY21 Maryland Recovery Act grant that Heather Tonelli is going to administer. This is $166,000 for nonprofit groups and through Housing and Community Services. And all I think I need is Commissioner Corcorino's signature on that. So
Need a motion for me to sign it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There we go.
okay.
Sign it in.
Thank you very much. And we'll get those funds distributed promptly. So,
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Do you want to say something?
You don't really have a
We
pink
didn't have,
calculator,
we
do you?
don't, no public comment or nobody wanted
thank you,
to-
George.
It's a work session.